Hi there, welcome to Floating in Dreams. Today we are going to be ranking all of my purple eyeshadow palettes. Welcome to everybody watching today. Thank you so very much for joining me. In this video today, I'm going to be ranking the 24 purple eyeshadow palettes that are currently in my possession. Not purples with blues in, not like blue, green, purple, just pure purple palettes. Some of them may lean a little bit more neutrally and do have some shades in, but I do feel that when I use the palette, it reads overall purple or slightly periwinkle on me. I know periwinkles are technically blues, but I only have 2 of those palettes, and I think my blue category is going to be about as big as this one, so I was like, I'll just rope them in here. And this is a video series that I want to do this year where once a month I rank a certain color story in my makeup collection. I did sort of like general overviews in August when I filmed eyeshadow palette month. I do that every year in case you didn't know. And I just realized that I had so many palettes where I'm like, do I really like it? So for some of these palettes, I think it's going to be their last hurrah where I'm like, I just need to get rid of this. So this is definitely the case for these purple palettes. And that's why I wanted to do this one first, because I knew based on the ranking I did in August that there are quite a few palettes here where I'm like, yeah, it may just be time for a declutter there. If I look at everything that I own, I just really need to give it a good cull and not hang on to things just for the sake of hanging on to things. So that's why I wanted to do this series, to sort of take you along for the ride. And then when I get to the declutters in March, I'm probably gonna have to keep things in my house so I can still film these rankings. But then once I film those rankings, I'm going to like truly get rid of some things. In some categories, I may not want to get rid of anything though. So I definitely think that before I sit down to declutter, I'm going to go through a ranking of my green palettes and also my blue palettes. Because I definitely want to do those things, as those are the categories where I feel I have like a lot, where I just could say like, okay, if I have these ones, I would be happy. With purples, I have definitely invested in some other purple palettes, and I just feel I now have better things. So my favorites have definitely shifted in the past year or so, where I feel like, I may not have to keep those things around. So 24 palettes, so let me just get to it. Then we have the numbers 24 and 23, and those are going to go to the Isadora quads that I got last summer. This is in Crystal Mauve, and I have Rockstar. And you know what? These are fine. If you like a very satiny formula, you're gonna love these. But to me, these just read like palettes circa turn of the century 2000s. You know, it's like, it feels like the formula hasn't been updated in the past 25 years. So they're just not the best. They're okay. I could work with them, but I don't like the shimmer quality that's in here. They just felt a little bit meh. They weren't the most blendable thing ever. And if you buy these full price, they are quite expensive for what they are. So that's why they are ranked all the way at the bottom. And I know these are going to be instant declutters. I had fun trying these. Some people were asking me, how do you feel about Isadora? I had never tried the brand. They are Swedish. I was in Sweden over the summer. I found an outlet store, was able to pick up a couple of their bits for a lot less money. But now that I've tried it, I'm like, yeah, this is not going to be like my new favorite brand or something like that. Ranked in the number 22 spot is going to be this guy. Remember what I said about the other ones where it's just expensive for the quality you get? And yes, I feel that way about Lisa Eldridge's Myth eyeshadow palette. I can see why this was discontinued, because this is not the same quality as the other Lisa Eldridge palettes I tried. I've tried Vega before this, and I've tried Sorcery. Those were absolute bangers, and I love them. But this one, not so much. I would still want to keep it around for these two like neutrally shades. I love those. But the rest that's in here just wasn't really good. This is a random warm tone and a sea of cool tones. This didn't blend really well. The black isn't super black. This felt patchy. It wasn't good. The two shades I like, I really love, and I would even consider like taking those two out and like maybe like roll them into one of my other Lisa Eldridge palettes or keep them as singles. I don't know, or maybe I should just buy a couple of like the other like singles and take these ones out and just use this compact to make my own Lisa Eldridge palette. But she hasn't really come out with many new shades. There were like 2 neutrally ones that she released. So maybe I want to pick up a couple of those shades and like MacGyver my own little palette together. Because you can buy the single pans for these as well. You don't have to buy the full packaging. So I may want to do that with these, but I'm not entirely sure yet what the fate of this is going to be. I do want to keep those 2 shades around. So a little on the fence with this one, but it would be a declutter if it wasn't Lisa Eldridge. Numbers 21 and 20 then are both by Glamshop. And these I know now are just not my favorite. I love Glamshop though. They are one of my favorite brands for eyeshadow. I really, really adore what they do. It's just that these 2 aren't my favorites in their given category. So the Veri Peri is a periwinkle palette and Fiolety is their purple palette. And I sort of bought this one on sale to complement the other one. But I just feel I have other purple palettes I like better. So even though the quality of this is amazing, the color stories don't really come together for me. The Fiolety, because it has a lot of like warmer tone purples, which I don't love. It looks more cool tone because of the cooler tone purple back packaging. But this is like truly the only true cool tone, and this does have a blue flash. But this just reads pink on me. It doesn't even look purple, and these are too berry for me to really love it. So if you love warm purples, that could be nice, but I believe it was also discontinued. And then the Veri Peri, a full-on periwinkle palette, sounded like a dream to me. But then this is just a row of blues. So it's part blue, part purple, and nothing here reads truly periwinkle to me. Because periwinkle is a mix of blue and purple, so it's sort of like that in-betweeny kind of shade. And this is just, you either get a blue look or you get a purple look, but there's no in-between. And I wanted it for that in-between thing, so then I thought maybe if I combine these 2, it will work out. I never really got around to doing it. And these are just my 2 least favorite Glamshop palettes I have in my collection, so maybe I'm just going to have to pass these on to other people who might get more joy out of them. Numbers 19 and 18 then are my 2 little Huda Beauty palettes. These again are just surpassed by other things in my collection. These are nice, I like them, but I just prefer the bigger Huda Beauty palettes than these little guys. I used to collect these, I decluttered some over time, and now I'm like, am I still really reaching for all of these things? Like, there are a couple that I would like to keep around because I really love them. And I like this one for the pastel-y things, and I like this one for like the slightly grungier vibes. But here as well, look at how warm this reads. These are the only things that are going to be purple on me. And here we get those 3 or 4 random peach things that totally throw the palette off for me. So that's why I think it's just time for these to go, because I don't reach for them. They're not part of my brain space. When I think purple, I think of all the other palettes that I have. And I just think I have other things now that can do what these things do for the things that I do like about it. It's just not necessarily anything I need to keep around. So that's why those are ranked a little bit lower as well. Number, I think, I'm losing count already, but somewhere still between 15 and 20, because that's where we're at, is the Flutterby from Colourpop, which holds all of the purple Colourpop products that I've had. This is a mixture of the Pleasure, It's My Pleasure, the, what was it, the Lilac You A Lot. I had the Wine and Only. I had so many of the like purpley berry tones that they did in like their monochromatic palettes. And I just kept my favorites over the years. And this is really nice. I really like how this came together. I kept all of the cool tones. It goes nicely deep. It's just, this is not something you can buy. And I haven't reached for this ever since I put it together. So I know that also my Colourpop collection is going to have a complete rejig. So either I want to do like a video where I sort of take my like 3 favorite shades out of this one and then completely rearrange the whole thing. Or I'm actually just going to get rid of most of my Colourpop palettes and only keep like the 4 or 5 that I truly feel passionate about. And newsflash, it's not necessarily all of the rearranged stuff that I have. So I'm not sure what to do with this yet, because for instance, this color in the corner, I'm like, ooh, I would miss that if I no longer had it. Because I feel that that's quite unique, this like silvery gray thing. So maybe I could just put it in my singles collection. I don't know yet what to do with these. I don't have to decide yet because my declutters won't be filmed until the end of February. But yeah, I need your help. I need thoughts. What would you do with this? Because I do like the shades that are in here. I just never reach for it because it's just not part of like, I want to do a purple look today. What do I not want to reach for? I'm going to reach for the stuff that's in my top 10 before I ever think of that. And sadly, what has very much dropped is this one. This used to be my favorite purple palette. It's the Flight Club from Menagerie, but Menagerie is a brand that I just don't really keep track of anymore. I have 1 or 2 palettes that are like my true favorites, but the Flight Club just isn't quite it. I made it more purple by putting things from the Violet ink in here, and I'm still not reaching for it. And why am I not reaching for it? Because again, it does have quite a few blue tone purples, but then it also has these things that just pull super pink. And I have just found that if a purple palette has a lot of warm toned purples in, I do not tend to love it as much. And I just think that purple palettes have come a long way ever since these things came out. So maybe that's just past its prime. I've had my moment with it. I still have the original shades. I could put it back together and maybe like sell it on Vinted because these things are pricey if you live in Europe. But that is definitely on the declutter pile as well, which is not something I thought I was ever going to say. But like I said, I have 1 or 2 Menagerie palettes that I truly adore, that are standouts in my collection, and those I want to keep. But this, not quite. We'll get to the top 10 after this because I'm counting like 2 palettes as one thing in this ranking as well. I always lose track of rankings. And these are also things where I'm like, do I need to keep it? But here, things do get tough because this thing, the Precious from Zoeva, I've tried to declutter this in the past. If I keep warmer tone purples, it has to be this. It's sort of like pinky, like warmer mauve tones here. It has a random gold. And then this is more like that pinky berry tone that I said I didn't love in the Flight Club. But I love this formula. And this is no longer around. You can no longer get it. And it's good to have some warmer tone purples around. And if I can just keep using these 2 shades into oblivion, I would. So the Precious, also because it is quite small and it doesn't take up a lot of space, is something where I'm like, yes, realistically, I could perhaps hang on to this. I just don't reach for it a whole lot because of the warmth. Then I have these 2. This is by Flort. This is one of their Food Bear palettes. It has a purple in and then like more of a gray. So this for me is like, is it a purple palette? Really? But the purple in here doesn't really show up. I love the shimmer that's right next to it, but this purple just doesn't really show up. So I think this is going to be an easy declutter. The black in here is super intense. And then I also have my little Fenty palette here. This is one of their Snap Shadows in Cool Neutrals. Again, is this a true purple palette? But I usually reach for the purple, but again, the purple in here isn't the best purple of your life. Again, a contender to keep around because I do like combining this with the Smoky Shadows one I have, or Smoky I think it's called. And there are some more like purpley toned taupey things in there. So I tend to like using them together from time to time, but I try to be careful to just have like a bunch of neutral palettes in here that have like 1 or 2 purples. I felt that those aren't like purple palettes. The reason why this made the cut is because I always reach for that purple when I do use it. So again, something where I'm like, I may just have to get rid of it. I may just have to get rid of my Fenty Beauty Snap Shadows as well, because they're not necessarily my favorite, but they are good. I do rate them. I'm not sure yet. And then this guy by BH Cosmetics, the Passion in Paris. And again, it's got those berry tones, which I've never liked about the palette. That's why I almost decluttered it like for, a couple of years ago. Then I couldn't. I never reach for this though, because I just have better, cooler tone purples, as you'll see in a second. And even in this top 10, there are things where I'm like, I like you, but it's not perfect. But I think, like, if I were to declutter most of the palettes I've just shown you, I would cut my purple palettes in half. That would be good. I would be very satisfied with this. And this is sort of something that I would want to do in my decluttering videos as well, as like group these palettes together and just look at how similar they are color story wise, because this is really nice. Again, do I need to keep this? That's still a question I'm not decided on yet. But the Futurism palette 6, Lunar Lavender from Kaleidos, this is stunning. This is beautiful. So if I want to go for that Huda Beauty sort of pastel moment, this is what I would reach for. The neutrals in here are just neutrals. They're not warm tone at all. And I feel I get very similar shades to what the like the pastel Obsessions has to offer. I don't even know what it's called. Lilac Obsessions. I just feel it's very similar, but this gives me more of what I actually want. But again, if I look at everything that I would want to keep, this is again pretty similar to other things. This, however, is part of a little set. I still have most of my Futurism palettes and I love them to pieces. But there again, I'm also like undecided. Do I need to keep all of them? Or do I want to just keep the one or two that I truly still reach for? And then this is definitely one that is more like up there as something I still want to reach for, and that is top of mind, which is why this is ranked in the number 10 spot. But yeah, the Lunar Lavender is just, it's a dangerous one. It's like where I'm like, sometimes I'm like, if I were to declutter this, I would regret it. I'm pretty sure I would feel that way. Number 9 is more Kaleidos, and these are just more updated versions of what they are currently doing right now. It's their little quads. It's the Twilight Rush and Glowing Iris. These are also a little bit more like periwinkle leaning, and this is what I wanted from the Veri Para. This is periwinkle. It's a perfect blend of blue and purple, and it's giving. It's very intense though. It's out there. Like if I wear that, you're gonna notice. And then Twilight Rush is more gray toned leaning. So it's far more cooler toned and a little bit more neutrally leaning. And I do feel these two blend together really well. So if I want to tone down the Glowing Iris, I reach for Twilight Rush. Or if I want to amp this up, I reach for Glowing Iris. So to me, that's why I'm ranking them together in the number 9 spot. I don't feel they are of the same quality and category as the Lunar Lavender. I do feel that's more like a true pastel palette. So that's why in my brain it still has merit. But these I feel are more updated. I like these the quality of these a bit better than I do of the Futurism palettes. I just feel like the Futurism palettes were really good for when they were released, like the moment in time they were released. But by now, we're a couple of years further down the line. Not sure they are still giving. Number 8 would be the Vespertine, the Violet Vespertine from Viseart. Viseart makes my favorite quality of eyeshadow, but this is just incredibly neutral and muted. The purple tones barely show up on me because everything in here looks incredibly samey. The reason why this gets ranked in the top 10 is because it is Viseart and because it is my favorite formula. And I can see myself using this in conjunction with another Viseart palette that's going to come up in a second. I do like this. It has a like very neutral leaning sort of color story. I loved wearing this in the fall time, but it wasn't the go-to that I expected it to be. So this is another one I'm like, I could possibly do without this. I would not necessarily have to keep this around in my life, but it's Viseart. Do I want to break up my Viseart collection? Still undecided. Don't know yet. Up in the air. Number 7 then is going to be this, the Wizard from Fantasy Cosmetica. Is this very purple or is it more blue? I was undecided, but I feel like that really interesting holographic shimmer is more purple, and you can easily pull this into a more purple leaning realm. It has to go somewhere. And in my brain, it just feels more purple than it does blue. So that's where I'm coming from. Really pretty shimmers, really good quality. I love Fantasy Cosmetica, but because this isn't like a fully 100% purple palette, I felt I couldn't rank it any higher. Number 6 is some more Viseart. This is the Petit Four Lavande. Apparently they're doing a 12-pan version of this. I finally was able to get a glimpse of it because I didn't see it anywhere, and it had apparently already sold out. I was like, oh, when did that drop? I had completely missed it. But this is the original Lavande. I could use this together with the Vespertine. I could use it with the next palette that's coming up from Viseart, because this is those lighter pastely purples, and this is why I'm like, do I then need to keep my Lunar Lavender around? Because this has those lavender shades in that the Lunar Lavender has. It just doesn't have the neutrals. But if I were to put these with some of my Viseart palettes, I do have the neutrals that I would want it to go with. You see where I'm coming from with this whole like decluttering idea at the second? I'm like, I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure I need to keep everything. Now remember what I said about the Veri Peri and the thing that I didn't want to get it? If I do declutter all of my ColourPop palettes, one of the palettes that's gonna stay is the Lavish. The Lavish is the first purple palette where I felt that ColourPop just nailed it. To me, it's the best periwinkle color story I've tried that is more lighted and more light and muted than something like the glowing iris from Kaleidos has to offer. So this is what I wanted the Veri Peri to be. This is the Veri Peri that I wanted to have. So that's why it's going to stay. It has some really beautiful shifty shades. It has everything I want. It's got a bit of gray, but then it also has the periwinkle shades. And on me, the periwinkle shows up. I know that on people with warm undertones, this looks very blue and gray, and it looks very ashy. But on my pale face with a cool to neutral undertone, this worked really well. So that's why this is number 5. This is a definite keep. Also a definite keep is another palette that made it into the top spot for my best purple palette I ever owned. The Violette Étendue. It's still in the top 5. I still love this thing to pieces. I think they still do it. And here I feel the neutrals do have that like slightly lilac-y undertone for me. And then you do get quite a few purples. I love this thing to pieces. It used to be my favorite, like purple with a pop of, like a neutral palette with a pop of color sort of palette that I have. I just feel that if I want to commit and go purple, this wouldn't be my pick, which is why it's number 4. But this, together with the Vespertine and together with the Lavande, between those 3 palettes, I have all the purples I could possibly want combined with neutrals. So that's why I'm again like, do I need to keep all of those other things I just showed you? Or is this just going to be my go-to? I just don't know yet. I also like sort of like muted purples. So for that option, I really like my Glossier Monochrome in Mist. So this is going to be number 3. And this is sort of like, if a neutral and a purple had a baby and you didn't want it to look too purple, this is really pretty. It's got a bit of gray to it, so it's perfectly cool toned. So pretty. I love that you get 3 textures. The only issue I wish that this had like some of the darker shades that the Lisa Eldridge has, because I feel like I don't have anything to do a liner with or something like that. This is just going to look really soft, a little bit like what I'm wearing today, just soft and whimsical. That's going to be the vibe you get from this. But I do really like that formula. Number 2, if I do want to go for something that has a bit more warmth, I have decided that this is going to be the pick. You haven't seen my review of this yet because I'm going to be posting my review on, I think it's going to go up on Tuesday. That's when you're going to see my review with the Vintage Glam from Gloss Gods, because this has some really beautiful purples in. You get some warmer toned, like pinky leaning shades, but you get a full row of these like dusty purples and then these neutrally purples, you could say. So this has everything. It has every rendition of like a neutrally leaning purple you could possibly want. This is my replacement for the Lilac Obsessions and the Purple Haze combined, because this does exactly what those 2 palettes do, but it's in one place. So that's why that's number 2, and we all know I love me a bit of Gloss Gods. So, but it probably doesn't come as any surprise because this palette was ranked super high in 2024. It's the Melt Smoke Sessions 2. This is now my favorite purple palette. It's all purple, it's all cool tones, and it has the variation that I wanted to have. If I go, I want a purple palette, this is it. It's light, it's dark, it has everything. It goes super blue, it goes super neutral, and nothing in here pulls berry on me because it has no warms. This shade looks really warm in the pan. Why does it look warm in the pan? Because everything else is very cool toned, and the packaging also has a cool tone background. So that's why this looks like it's going to look like a brown on me with brushes, it looked like a really pretty neutrally leaning purple, like we get in some of the Viseart palettes. So this has everything that I could possibly want. If I could keep just one purple palette for the rest of my life, this one, the Melt Smoke Sessions 2. So this is why I know, based just off of like my top 5/top 10, those are all of the shades that I would want to keep, and I think I could do every sort of purple look on the planet. Like, I just could. So I don't need 24. So we need a cull. We need a cull. So let me know with your suggestions down below, based on what I've shared with you. What would you do in my position? What would you get rid of? What would you keep? Would you keep just one? Would you keep the top 10? Would you keep 15? I would like suggestions of how you feel. How many purple palettes do you have, and which one is your favorite? Because I would love to know that as well. And so for now, I would like to thank you so very much for joining me. I think next month we're just gonna have to do the blues. Yeah, I think blues are gonna be next. So stay tuned while I sort through all of that mess, and then I hope to see you again in my next video. Bye-bye.